That was the South then. Here's the new South.
But America, we are not going back.
Kamala Harris is winning the swing states in the American South. And what does that mean?
But she retains a slight edge in both national and battleground state polling. Our latest poll with Ipsos shows Harris up 52-46 among likely voters. That is better than President Biden was looking when he exited the race a couple weeks back.
Harris's surging campaign in Georgia and North Carolina is convincing local Democratic leaders that she can score the first double win in these southern swing states since Jimmy Carter. That was nearly half a century ago. In Georgia and North Carolina, more than 52,000 volunteers have joined the Harris campaign in just the last 3 weeks. So many that party officials down there barely know what to do with all of them. I just heard a Democratic official in Georgia describe the headquarters as a madhouse, with up to 30 people showing up every day to help and a wealthy donor shelling out cash to pay neighborhood canvassers. The electoral path in these two traditionally Republican states that no Democrat has won since Carter is now hers. In the latest Bloomberg poll of registered voters in 7 swing states, she's now leading Trump in all of them, in both Georgia and North Carolina by 2 percentage points. How and why? Well, let's start here.
We're tracking something really interesting going on right now. It's a surge in voter registration in key groups ahead of the November election. Among young black women, registration is up more than 175%. You heard that right, more than 175% in 13 states. That's compared to the same time in 2020. This, according to the data firm TargetSmart. Registration has also increased among young Latinas and black Americans. Tom Bonnier, 175%, can that possibly be right? You must have triple checked this, or many more times than that.
You're right to repeat the number because I've more than triple checked it. It's incredibly unusual to see changes in voter registration that are anywhere close to this. I mean, to remind people, 175% is almost tripling of registration rates among this specific group. You just don't see that sort of thing happen in elections normally.
And what does that tell us, if anything, about either enthusiasm, attention, propensity to vote for these newly registered participants?
Tells us a lot. The reason that we look at this voter registration data is because the polls will only tell us so much. The polls tell us how people are going to vote. They don't tell us if or who is going to vote. It's a big question. The best indicator of that is the actions that people are taking. Number one, registering to vote. Someone who says, I want to participate in this election.
Give Harris her due. Race and gender aside, she's got the goods. A former attorney general, a prosecutor, U.S. senator, and vice president, she knows how to win. Not just elections, but on the high wire. Prosecuting really bad people in cases where, were she to lose, people's lives would be in danger. She doesn't lose.
And I will tell you, these fights were not easy. And neither were the elections that put me in those offices. We were underestimated at practically every turn. But we never gave up.
And in many ways, running against Trump is the same. If he were to somehow again seize power, he's told us what he's going to do. He'll deport 11 million people, including U.S. citizens born here.
We are going to start the largest mass deportation in the history of our country because we have no choices.
Trump will eliminate regulatory agencies and give power to the states to cut safeguards for workers and citizens. Oh, yeah, and women.
He signs an executive order removing abortion records from HIPAA privacy regulations and announces a new federal data sharing program so states can monitor women's periods.
And the one path for Americans to escape poverty, education.
The Department of Education is renamed the Department of American Values and mandates a nationwide Christian nationalist curriculum for all schools receiving federal aid.
But I think it's Trump's claim that all of the elections are rigged and that should he lose, he's entitled to steal the office that has the South boiling.
Whoever heard you get indicted for interfering with a presidential election where you have every right to do it?
Southerners have seen this before. After Reconstruction and throughout the Civil Rights Movement, voting rights and election results were erased and Jim Crow allowed to prosper. And despite states like Florida rewriting history books, people can still find the truth. There's a little thing called the internet.
The first time any president has ever made mention of Negro voting.
In 1865, he said freed slaves who were intelligent or had served as soldiers should be allowed to vote. The 14th Amendment, passed in 1868, guaranteed this right as part of the full citizenship accorded to African American men. But for much of the 20th century, voting remained a contentious issue. The 19th Amendment, ratified in 1920, gave women the right to vote, but the racial divide remained.
But the South isn't all black people and rednecks. Far from it. The South has seen real economic growth and change, and they see Trump and Republicans not as the future, but a reminder of the past.
White people are done being bullied.
Discriminating against and denigrating, just denigrating white people.
And we already got a hint of Georgia's shift when Republicans ran Herschel Walker against the Reverend Warnock. Walker was a disaster with a past that included holding a gun to his girlfriend's head and stating there was no such thing as evolution or the moon landing. Republicans admitted they picked him because of his skin color. An insult, of course, to African Americans throughout the state. And of course, Georgia also elected a Jewish man, John Ossoff, as a U.S. Senator. Impressive in that up until 2001, Georgia's state flag was a Confederate battle flag.
If you're a Democrat, the good news, besides the fact that you're ahead, is that's an improvement for Democrats from where things were before Harris became the candidate. Joe Biden almost all year was trailing Donald Trump, so that's changed Harris ahead by a few points there. Now, if you're a Republican, what you can take solace from here is this is not unfamiliar territory for Donald Trump. Take a look here at the last two elections, 2020, 2016. The polling at this point, coming out of Labor Day, beginning the fall rush. In 2016, Hillary Clinton led on average by 5 points. Of course, Donald Trump won in 2016.
So why is Harris different from Hillary? Look, I loved Hillary, but she carried the baggage of her impeached husband, and that's hard to shake, as was the successful campaign by Republicans to paint her as an elitist. Say what you want about Harris, an elitist she ain't.
They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us, and we will not stand for it.
It's mind-numbing trying to understand who would vote for Trump until you see the people who actually do.
You think that Trump is actually still in power right now?
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
So you think Biden is not the current president right now?
No, sir.
No.
No, sir. Never believed it.
So Trump is the current president right now?
Yes, sir.
So are you mad at Trump for the high gas prices?
No. It's not Trump's fault.
Whose fault is it then?
He's got to set all this.
But Joe Biden, where's Joe Biden? He said he's not president.
He's not the president.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is.
So how could the gas prices be his fault if he's not president?
What you don't understand what they're trying to do. They have to wake up the dingleberries.
But these people are no longer the single representation of the South. That's both good news and bad news. Bad news is I live in Southern California, and I see these crackerheads at Costco every Saturday.
If Trump wins, will you accept the results?
Of course.
If Kamala wins, will you accept the results?
No. No, because it won't be possible. It'll be an absolute canard. Nobody's really voting for
but you got to, when you listen to yourself say that, that's got to be a red flag, right?
Yeah, no, it's not. Listen to what the Democrats say.
So say it again. If Donald Trump wins this election, will you accept the results?
Yes.
If Kamala Harris wins this election, will you accept the results?
No.
I mean, you got to hear what that sounds like, right?
I don't care what it sounds like.
But the good news is African Americans are moving back to the South in waves. And with that, a particular attitude. And that attitude is, we're back. And things are going to change.
In a lot of cities across the country, northern cities, southern cities, western cities, African Americans started to make this move. Especially in the last 20 or 25 years, really large numbers of blacks moved to the South.
But again, the resistance to Trump crosses all ethnic lines. Kamala Harris isn't just a woman of color, she is the resistance to this patriarchal, theocratic, Calvinistic view of how things are supposed to be. That doesn't cut it anymore. The South used to be fat redneck sheriffs with a "you ain't from around here, are you, boy?" But today, social media, for all its faults, has exposed the Trumpy world of let's go back to the 50s. And Kamala Harris leads that refrain.
We are not going back.
So it will come down to these states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, and Nevada. Harris leads them all. And while you hear there's a margin of error, most people only see it one way. Think about this. If Harris is up 51 to 49% with a 3% margin of error, most people see the number as a statistical tie. But it works both ways. That 51 to 49% could easily be Harris 54 to 46%. And her growth has been slow and steady, not a quick bump. We are 2 months away from the election, and while Georgia Republicans try and formulate a plan to steal votes, Democrats are showing up in numbers with a mission. And one more thing, the governor, who is a Republican, who despite what he says publicly, secretly hates Trump. I mean, wouldn't you?
Under these kinds of woke radical left policies, Atlanta is like a killing field, and your governor ought to get off his ass and do something about it.
This time, if Trump calls Georgia and asks for someone to find votes, my bet is Kemp will have the perfect answer.
I just want to find 11,000.
Hello? Damn right.
I'm ready. Let's go.
This isn't their Republican Party anymore.
Trust me.
Shut the fuck up, Dan.
Who's with me? Oh, yeah, the lie.
Indictable.
Out of sheer morbid curiosity, I'm allowing this freak show to continue.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Tick-tock.
We're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.